You can get on the internet, you can find out when they're going to be opening up the gates and when they're going to have the maximum flow, and plan your strategy and plan your day around that kind of stuff. So current is real important. And the baits that I like to use a lot of times on these ledges are these cranking baits. Now, these are DT20 metals. They're excellent deep water baits. There's a lot of them out there, old school DT22s. Strike King's got a great bunch of crankbaits. They're 6XDs, and now even the 10XD, which is like as big as your head. Those giant crankbaits. But let me tell you something, when that current's ripping hard, you don't want to be bringing a finesse bait, right? When that current's pulling, those bass are going to feed. So you want a big power bait, one that makes noise, one that rattles, one that has a big presence in the water, and that's what you want. Now, and a lot of people are going to catch them when that's happening. The key is being able to catch them when they turn that faucet off. And the way to do that is I get silent, I get quiet with silent baits, with ones that wobble tighter, with ones that have a much smaller presence in the water. And you can trigger bites that way. Here's a great one called the flying chicken. That's what I call it. The big hair jigs, the big white bucktail jigs, structured jigs. These baits are outstanding at triggering bites in those offshore situations, especially when they cut off the flow. Way that I fish them, and well, a lot of people do, is you're going to throw out to the ledge, the point, the hump, whatever it may be fishing, and you're going to reel up. You're going to reel up about, I don't know, 5 to 10 times. Just zip that bait off the bottom and then let it fall. And it comes up through the bait fish and then falls back through them. And I'm telling you, it will trigger the strikes when a lot of these other baits have stopped working. That's a dynamite little weapon to use in that scenario. Here's a cool one called a structure spoon. And these they're like old daredevil spoons, and you guys all, I'm sure, have fished with one of those from time to time, but they've just blown them up. They've got 4 inches, 6 inches, and license plate size spoons. And these structure spoons are excellent, especially when bass are feeding on stuff like big yellow bass down at Lake Fork, or they're feeding on big gizzard shad, which they do a lot in the summertime. You want those big spoons, and how you fish a flutter spoon is you're going to make a long cast out, allow it to flutter down, hit the bottom, and you're going to snatch it up off the bottom and then allow it to fall on a semi-slack or slack line. And that bait, you'll pull it up through the bait or in front of the fish's face and just allow it to flutter and fall in an erratic way. And you watch your line and it'll just boom, it'll just pop. And it's a real exciting way to trigger strikes out in the summertime when these fish are out off the edges in our reservoirs. Some other baits I got up here, a jig. A football head jig is excellent structure bait for fishing out here on the ledges, especially when those fish are relating to the bottom. They're keyed down. You can really do a lot of damage with a football head jig dragged along mussel beds and shell beds. Now, I stumbled onto the shell beds, but shell beds are so key. I talked about them a little bit earlier, is that freshwater mussels are filter feeders. They're going to be in the face of the current. That's where you want to look for these everywhere you go. So if you have a point that's sticking out, the current's going this way, which side the mussel's going to lay on?